Now, we're expecting the verdict on Yasin Malik in the terror funding case that was brought against him by the National Investigation Agency. Inside the Patiala House Court, the NIA court, right in the heart of Delhi, Judge Praveen Singh will be reading out in the next few moments the quantum of punishment against Yasin Malik. It could be death, the capital punishment, or it could be life term, depending on what conclusion the judge arrives at. Remember, a few days ago, Yasin Malik was convicted by the same court, and today is the quantum of punishment. What you're seeing are pictures from moments ago where Yasin Malik, surrounded by a heavy posse of police personnel, rapid action force, as well as paramilitary forces being brought in amidst that huge cover of security, being brought into the Patiala House Court, where in the next few minutes, Judge Praveen Singh will read out the quantum of punishment, the sentence that Yasin Malik will have to serve. There are two likely possibilities. If the judge views his crime in a very, very harsh manner, then yes, he will be given the capital punishment. It is possible to give a capital punishment because this is a terror funding case, because of his actions, because of his culpability, because of what he did. There were terror acts that took place. As a result, people died. Therefore, the judge can take a stringent view and punish Yasin Malik with the capital punishment. Or if he takes a slightly more lenient view, then it will be a life term for Yasin Malik. We're also seeing pictures coming out from the valley, from Srinagar. Sporadic instances of protests by people there. Some women have gathered at his residence as well. But these are sporadic. Mind you, this happens every time there is a high-profile or sensitive case such as this. We saw this with Afzal Guru many years ago. We're now seeing this again with Yasin Malik. But let's be absolutely clear about the facts, ladies and gentlemen. This is just the tip of the iceberg as far as Yasin Malik is concerned. This is just a terror funding case. He is wanted for far more grave, far more sinister crimes, whether it is the killing of Kashmiri Pandits, the mass genocide of Kashmiri Pandits, whether it is the killing of Indian Air Force personnel. Sitting Indian Air Force personnel were killed by this very man. He's wanted for n number of far graver crimes, but this will set the ball rolling. This will draw a line in the sand that people like Yasin Malik, it's not just him, there are others as well, secessionist and separatist elements in the Kashmir Valley, that people like them will not be politically protected anymore. And that's why there is so much focus on this verdict against Yasin Malik, the quantum of sentencing, which will come out in the next few minutes. I want to go across to Mufti Islah, Srinagar Bureau Chief. Tejinder Sodhi is our Jammu Bureau Chief. He's also joining us. Mufti, what is the situation on the ground? We know there is heavy-duty security, as you would expect. We've seen this in the past as well. But what is the situation on the ground right now? And what may this verdict mean for the politics of the valley?
Look, the only good thing is that this tension is not flared up across the valley. It's still confined in that area called Lal Chowk, Maisuma, and other areas like Residency Road. So clearly there is tension, of course, in downtown Srinagar, where shops have been shuttered. Same is the case with Lal Chowk and all these areas. But what is happening now is that there was a brief kind of a clash in that area where police had to lob few smoke shells to scare away those protesters who had come in and collected at Yasin Malik's residence. Clearly what followed was that those people came out in a form of a rally, raised slogans against government of India. That's when police intercepted them, and they had to use lathis, although very mildly, because the number of people that are protesting are in perhaps in less than 100, and that kind of explains that before 2019 or 2018, the protests in this particular area would be huge, where hundreds of stone pelters would assemble. But these are minor kind of clashes when you compare it with that era. But clearly police is engaged. Also, what is aiding the police is the surveillance from the drones, the CCTV footage, and police actually have rounded off now this whole area. They've rushed its men. Heavy duty security is out there so that these people don't utilize the maze and lanes of Maisuma and pelt stones of the security forces. That seems to be the situation. Although the tension is very much building in the valley, and people really waiting anxiously what the sentence is going to be.
So the latest from the court is that the judge is yet to to arrive in the courtroom. He's still in his chamber. A corrected copy of the order has been sent back to the judge. He's going through it right now, and then he will walk into the courtroom and pronounce the quantum of punishment on Yasin Malik. I want to go across also to Tejinder, who's joining us from Jammu. Contrasting scenes in Jammu, where in these settlement colonies, refugee colonies, hundreds of thousands of Kashmiri Pandits whose families were at the receiving end of people like Yasin Malik are celebrating today. What does today's sentencing mean for such families?
Zaga, we just spoke to Nirmal Khanna. She is the wife of squadron leader Ravi Khanna, who 32 years ago was gunned down by Yasin Malik. And she said that she herself saw Yasin Malik firing 28 bullets into squadron leader Ravi Khanna. And she saw Yasin Malik there dancing with a gun over the dead body of Ravi Khanna. So these are the people who are the real victims of terrorists like Yasin Malik. Though Yasin Malik might try to gain sympathy by saying that he has been following the Gandhian principle. But when we spoke to Nirmal Khanna, she says that when did Gandhi advocate taking gun? When did Gandhi advocate funding terrorists? Though Yasin Malik himself has accepted in the court of law that he is involved in terror financing case for which he would be sentenced any moment from now. We know that he had pleaded guilty rather in the court, and there are several other cases against Yasin Malik which are going on in Jammu. The case of the killing of 4 IAF personnel, the case of the kidnapping of Rubia Saeed, the daughter of the former Home Minister of country Mufti Muhammad Saeed. And today we also saw when Mehbooba Mufti came out in support of Yasin Malik, saying that death sentence or a life sentence will not change anything on ground. Did she forget that Yasin Malik is also being tried for a case of kidnapping her own sisters at Jammu? Zaka, as you rightly pointed out, there are contrasting scenes as compared to Kashmir. People are celebrating, people are on roads, distributing sweets, bursting firecrackers. They are just waiting that Yasin Malik, a terrorist like Yasin Malik, who is involved in anti-national activities, who is involved in the exodus of Kashmiri Pandits, he faces the music of the law. Yes, Azad.
All right, let me also go across to Arunima, who's been tracking the NIA case very, very closely. This case relates to terror funding. What is the accusation against Yasin Malik for which he was convicted a few days ago, and how may this result in grievous punishment like a death penalty or even life imprisonment for that matter?
So the NIA in its charge sheet said that in 2016 there were 89 cases of stone pelting in the valley for which money came from ISI. The money was given to Hafiz Saeed and the Lashkar-e-Toiba Hizbul Mujahideen. It was then routed through cross-LOC traders like Zahur Vatali, who then brought the money to leaders like Yasin Malik, Shabir Shah, Asia Andrabi, and it was then passed on to terrorists like Bitta Karate. The money was given to children, youngsters, minors who were indulging in stone pelting. If you recall, this was a time when every cordon and search operation was meted with stone pelting. This is where the money was coming from. Not just stone pelting, as per NIA, there were schools and government buildings that were burned down, not because anybody was upset, but because they were paid to do so. All of this, the entire money trail was summarized by NIA in its charge sheet. When the matter came to taking cognizance, the court took cognizance and asked all the accused if they pleaded guilty. All the others except Yasin Malik said that they want to contest the charges and they want to face trial. Yasin Malik, however, pleaded guilty not once, not twice, 3 times. He was given 3 chances by the special judge because he did not have a lawyer, and all 3 times he said that he wanted to plead guilty. Today, when the sentencing happens, NIA's prosecutor has cited section 16 of UAPA to say that if you have committed a terror act, an act of terrorism which has resulted in a death of a person, then you can be given the capital punishment. Of course, the Legal Aid Council, who was hired by the NIA judge to aid Yasin Malik, he argued for the lesser punishment of life term. Now that the corrected copy of the order has gone back to the judge's chamber, the procedure is he will look through that entire order and see if there are any other corrections to be made. If not, then he will finally come to the courtroom and address Yasin Malik and tell him that for his crime for which he pleaded guilty, as per the judge, does it call for life term or death sentence?
All right, I'll come back to our reporter colleagues in just